joining us. Today we've got an amazing session. We're going to deep dive into an award-winning case study, something that we don't get the chance to do all the time. You know, we provide the recognition with the Customer Centricity World Series and our other awards programs, but we don't always get to dive into these award-winning studies and really find out what the winning organizations have been up to. So welcome to the CX community session for the Americas. My name's Richard Kendi. I'm the COO of Arcade Global. Diane was supposed to be running this session, but unfortunately she's not available. So you're stuck with me. Agenda today, quick introduction for myself, and then I'm going to introduce you to our fantastic speakers from Illumina who are going to present their award-winning case study. And then we're going to jump straight into a Q&A. So if you do have any questions, that slide's in the wrong place. If you do have any questions, please just pop them in the chat. And then when we get round to the end, I'll just ask you to bring yourself off mute, bring yourself back on camera, and you can ask the question directly to our wonderful speakers today. As I said, today is part of the Customer Centricity World Series. The registration deadline is tonight. So if you've told Laura that you were going to enter, or you've told me, or you've told Jenny that you're going to enter and you haven't yet, they will be hunting you down today for you to enter. So please register your entry by midnight tonight. That would be fantastic. We'd love to see you there, and our judges would love to hear your entry. So as I said, housekeeping, just keep yourself on mute until we open up for the Q&A at the end. Today, we've got two fantastic speakers from Illumina who are award winners. They won the customer success category. We have Melissa Spears, who's a senior staff customer experience and culture specialist, and Sherry Grissom, associate director, service and support. So I'm going to hand you over to the lovely ladies at Illumina, and they're going to present their case study. So again, if you have any questions for our speakers today, please just pop it in the chat and we'll get round to them towards the end. So over to you.
Awesome, thank you. Thanks everyone for joining today. Happy Friday. Let's get to sharing. All right, I believe that you should be seeing my screen now. Is that correct?
Not yet.
No? Sorry about that. This one more time.
There we go.
All right, thank you. And thanks everyone for joining today, as I mentioned, and thank you for the opportunity, Richard and the Arquette team, for having us and for recognizing the work that's been done here. So I'm Sherry Grissom. I am an Associate Director of Service and Support at Illumina. And Melissa Spears is also on the call. She'll be talking close to the end of the presentation today, and we have Tim Gilmartin also on the call. He'll be helping with Q&A. So before I get started, I really just want to acknowledge first and foremost that the work presented today is it's the culmination of the work of many individuals over several years. The successes that I'll discuss are due to the passion of our America's customer experience, service and support team members. And I hope I'm able to share how we embody that passion with our customers. Is driven largely by the important work that our customers are doing and a true belief in Illumina's mission. So today, as I mentioned, you'll hear from myself and Melissa, and we definitely have had many other leaders along the journey. And so I want to acknowledge both Tom and Tim. Tom isn't able to join us today, but I want to acknowledge the work that they both did, carrying significant roles to drive the success of the projects for today. And I should also mention that the names you're looking at, we are not CX professionals. We're scientists and engineers who work at Illumina. And this is something that has grown over the years. So let me introduce you to Illumina. Who is Illumina? Illumina is the global leader in DNA sequencing technologies with the mission to improve human health by unlocking the power of the genome. So our DNA sequencers enable an understanding of the genome and how that translates to health and disease. So you're going to get a small science lesson today. So genomics seeks to understand the structure, function, evolution, mapping of our DNA, and it has the potential to provide more effective diagnosis and more cost-effective healthcare. Every cell in your body has DNA, and that DNA is instructing it to do whatever function it is being carried out. So you can think of your DNA as sort of your human novel. The 4 bases, adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine, A, C, T, and G, are the letters of the alphabet, and the sequence in which they are listed in the book are the words and the sentences that make up the story. If you pick any 2 individuals on Earth and compare those books, you're looking at very, 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 very similar letters, structure. There's only about 0.5% of difference between all of those letters. So our sequencers read this book and they look for those differences. And these differences can help us understand ancestry, genetic disease risk. It can help us understand mutations that cause cancers, identify appropriate therapies. These are just a few examples, excuse me, of how the technology can be used. And certainly if you have any questions, I encourage you to reach out to myself, Melissa, Tom, or Tim on LinkedIn, and our emails are at the end of the presentation. So I've already touched on many of the markets that are listed here on the slide, but in terms of the customers that we serve, we are a B2B company, and we have end users that work with universities and academic research centers, hospitals, government agencies, pharmaceutical companies. We have a vast array of customers across many industries. So the team that I'm going to discuss today are the Americas Regional Service and Support Team, and more specifically, a group called the ARC-X, or the Americas Regional Customer Experience Team. While we have more than 650 scientists and engineers globally, approximately 400 of those are in the Americas region. So these scientists include our remote technical support, our field application scientists, our field service engineers, and they're supporting over 3,000 customers in the Western Hemisphere, with the majority of those being in the United States. And this team brings Illumina's technology to life in our customer facilities. They're supporting their labs through installing instrumentation. They're training on how to use and optimal workflows, troubleshooting when issues arrive. And the local accessibility of our support is extremely important to our organization. We consistently have customer success and effort scores that are greater than 90% on all of our transactional surveys. So the natural growth of this team and in the ARC-X team is to focus in on customer effort. How do we reduce customer effort? And we do that through looking to improve customer communication, training resources, and support processes. Our lived experiences have taught us that focusing and contributing to the reduction of customer effort in this very typically high complexity environment is key to our customer success. So how do we do this? So first, we have a very unique and privileged perspective of how our customers interact with our products on a daily basis in their lab environments with their team members. And so we're taking that front row seat to how our customer is using the product. So I'm going to draw an analogy here to sort of to a car buying experience. So Joe needs a car and he's going to the car company, and that car company wants to know, what are his needs? Is he using this car to commute? Is he shuttling kids? Is he trying to impress his neighbors? As a company, they might have had a single market in mind for that product, but what if Joe wants to use it for different and innovative ideas? What if he wants to shuttle the kids and impress his neighbors? So as a company, understanding the drivers, the insights, when you really sit down and listen and take that front row seat to how the products can be used is really important. Second, we have an appreciation for how small nuances can affect the customer's opinion of a product. So back to the car analogy, Joe's found a car when he really likes. He's piling the kids in car line. The neighbors are, he's got everybody's eye. So he's done the, he found a product that solved the two things that he wanted. But he's so annoyed because he also paid top dollar for these trendy water bottles and a coffee mug that he loves, but it doesn't fit in the cup holder. And everyone knows that car line requires coffee, right? And so every single day he gets in that car and he can't fit his coffee mug in. And it's not anything that he's going to return the car for, but he sees it every single day. So we try not to take the little things for granted, especially when there's sort of an overall effect that can build over time or that can be affected by many people. The third part here is that we have a culture of continuous innovation at Illumina. We are high complexity, innovative technology. And so we need to find the audience to share our insights. Thinking about going back to Joe, what is his outlet for this complaint? It's not really a complaint. It's it's just a minor inconvenience, but it might affect him later, right? The next time he goes to buy a car, he might bring along his coffee mug and see, does it actually fit? Did they fix it? And so what does he do? He gets a survey about the sales experience. Is that the place to put that, comment in? Probably not. Same with the service events. There's no outlet for that feedback. And so all he does is he complains to others. It's so annoying. My cup doesn't fit. But if you take a step back and think about this example and consider if it's a European car maker and the coffee mugs and the water bottles are popular in the US, it could be that they're missing this feedback, this annoying feedback from an entire population of potential customers. So this is how we actually grew into our need for what we now call the Illumina internal idea exchange. So how do we capture the voice of customer and drive action? So our service and support teams are in the front row, as I mentioned, every single day with our customers. They're witnessing firsthand both large and small opportunities to improve that experience and decrease effort. So who do they tell? We built the internal idea exchange to essentially become a repository. So the problem statement was really that we were getting customer feedback and we were sending that in, but we were sending it only to people that we knew. Who was going to listen? We didn't have a great place to database it. It would get lost in email. There was sort of a lack of transparency and a lack of volume, sort of that population effect. So we built a database to drive visibility to the various ideas that were coming in. And we used crowdsourcing, so upvoting ideas. If we had an idea that came in, another person from the field saw it and said, hey, that's a really awesome idea. We could start to build some opportunity to understand how important it was to both the field and our customers. And third was transparency. When we would have those person-to-person interactions, we never we might have followed up occasionally, but really, there was always the lack of follow-up, the lack of what did that individual do with that information? Did they change it? Did they put it into the next product design? And so there was always these questions around transparency. So this was our opportunity. And we dug in and created the idea exchange. And we were gathering ideas and voting on them. And the transparency piece was kind of where we fell apart. So we took a step back and we said, why is this not working? And when we dug into it, we determined that our internal teams, our audience for this information, they were unsure of whose responsibility it was for the intake. They were overwhelmed with the volume of the various requests. And so with the help of some internal advocates, we iterated the process. And we more precisely defined the roles and responsibilities for the intake of that information. And we also included the addition of a subcommittee that was made of more senior scientists and engineers that not only helped to prioritize with the crowdsourcing, but could also help us understand the business impact that would ultimately be realized. Sorry about that. So where are we now? Today, as of the end of last year, actually, we had over 800 ideas submitted. 342 of those were in process, and about 105 ideas had been delivered. So what are we actually using it for? We originally started the use of the internal idea exchange for instrument request, technology, consumables are the reagents that went onto the instruments. That's actually expanded over the years to include usability of software, the user experience with instrument setup, kit packaging, kit sustainability ideas. And then in addition to the ideas, I want to lastly touch on how we use this to prioritize the digital support resources for our customer. So our field teams have always worked on a high touch paradigm. The relationship building through those in-person instrument support and training is really been key to our success. And like most, COVID forced us behind our screens. And but we still had to continue our work. We still had clinical centers that needed to complete tests. COVID variants were actually being identified by Illumina technology. So we partnered with various experts within our service and support organization. So we expanded the ArcX team itself to quickly identify those opportunities for supporting customers in what was becoming just an increasingly remote and quarantined environment. As the volume of those requests grew, the internal idea exchange was used to identify those easy wins, look for the opportunities to crowdsource those needs within our team, and we could quickly react. In the example that we shared with the ARCAT team revolved around a video of how-to instructions for a recycling tool. And this went from an idea to being published in just around 4 months. And as of this week, this video had been viewed over 2,500 times. And that's just relative. It's around 3 views per instrument that we have. Before I hand it over to Melissa, I just want to leave you with 2 quotes that I've used often with our ArcX team. And the first is, you can't do today's job with yesterday's methods and be in business tomorrow. And this is really important where we are industry leaders, but we don't want to settle for status quo. We always want to be innovating not only our technology, but innovating the ways that we can help our customers, the ways that we can interact with our customers. And so just because it worked today doesn't mean it'll work tomorrow. And that's just been something to continually push with the team. And lastly, and this kind of goes to the outside in version of the talk, is really that example is not the main thing, it's the only thing for influencing others. And that really is that our team that interacted directly with the customers is able to influence and change and redirect efforts internally when we're able to get that information to them efficiently. So with that, I'm actually going to turn it over to Melissa, who's going to talk about how that has changed.
Thank you, Sherry. And thanks again, Richard, for hosting us today. As Sherry mentioned, my name is Melissa Spears, and I lead our CX culture function at Illumina. We thought that during this last 5 minutes, we would provide you a big picture view of what the Global CX Culture Program looks like at Illumina during my first year here in the CX team and where we're going in the future. So if you could advance to the next slide, Sherry. Thank you. So the CX culture role was actually a newly created role within our global CX team. And I moved into this role from the field application scientist role, kind of that Sherry mentioned before. So I was out training customers, troubleshooting, and implementing our technology around the district that I live in St. Louis, Missouri. So I moved into the customer experience culture role at Illumina in late 2021. For me, this meant moving from the commercial part of our organization into the marketing segment where the global CX team sits. So if you've been in CX for a while or you're new to customer experience, for me, this meant educating myself really on what customer experience means as the customer journey. So for me, it meant watching every CX LinkedIn learning course that I could find. It was attending conferences, signing up for webinars such as this, joining CXPA, reading all the Forrester articles. And then luckily, I found lots of great advisors like Dan Majors and the Architect Global team that have walked me through this last year and a half. Once I got settled in a bit more into this role and semi-comfortable, I wanted to take advantage of my past experiences in that customer-facing role and my connections with the commercial team to really recognize the team members in the service and support organization that were going the extra mile to deliver great customer experiences to our customers. So we did that internally at a large service and support meeting that we host every year by giving out the Extra Mile Awards to those employees. And we hope to implement that each year at that service and support meeting. Additionally, externally, which is what brought us here today, we entered into the Customer Centricity World Series and the North American Awards, which we not only won for this customer success, but we also won for Best CX Transformation Strategy for a different customer experience program that we have within Illumina called Proactive. Lastly, we made a big splash in October, not only for October 4th, which is CX Day, but for the whole month. We really wanted to gain visibility to our global CX team across all of Illumina. So during the month of October, we invited all of our employees to participate in the hashtag IMCX challenge. This was really for our employees to tell us how their jobs bring the customers to the forefront of what they do. So whether they sit in R&D, manufacturing, supply chain, or they were customer facing, we wanted to hear from them and start having people think about, their roles as CX, because it is everybody's job at Illumina. We also highlighted each of our functions within the global CX team, and we utilize our CX champions team to highlight our regions in Asia, Europe, Greater China, and the Americas. Next slide, please. And then just to wrap up, looking forward into 2023 and beyond, we have several programs that we want to launch to expand our culture to be customer-centric. The first thing that we want to do is integrate customer experience into the full employee journey. We want to build a program of education, of shared values and behaviors that all employees should be using that represent what is the Illumina experience. We want to accomplish this through new hire trainings, our commercial boot camps where we're talking to those people who are out with the customers, as well as regional meetings. Secondly, the one I'm pretty excited about is a Moments That Matter loyalty program. And so we teach our service and support and our sales teams, how to sell, how to troubleshoot, how to fix problems, but we don't really teach them how to go out and celebrate and give these immersive experiences with customers that make them memorable and make customers really want to stay with the Illumina brand. So the goal of this program is to build those peaks in those day-to-day interactions with our customers and empowering our employees with the processes and tools to deliver those memorable experiences that don't cause them to have a ton of extra work. So we're setting up this program for them. Thirdly, as a global company, we're continuing to align the customer experience across all of our regions and functions. Like what Sherry's mentioning with the idea exchange, we have to be continually bringing that voice of customer and voice of field to drive change at the beginning of our product development pipeline, instead of always, having to fix the problems after after the instrument has been launched. So trying to figure out what those problems are before new instruments get out to customers. And then lastly, I just wanted to thank this community. I've only been doing this for a little over a year. This job takes a lot of grit and perseverance, and I applaud all of you in the community who have CX roles. It is not an easy task. And I would just like to thank you all for allowing me to kind of follow you in this journey, stalk you, and learn from you of how to do this. And again, on behalf of Sherry and Tim and myself, again, thanks to Arquette Global for this opportunity today and the recognition for the great work that we've been doing at Illumina. Thank you so much. Here are our emails. Please feel free to reach out to us after this via email if you have questions, or on LinkedIn. We're happy to connect and help anyone else however we can. So thank you so much.
Thank you both so much for your presentation. It's great to see the evolution from the awards entry and also where you plan to go this year. It's just really nice to see what your plans are and where you want to be as well, and that you've not just won 2 awards and then said, no, that's it, we've done customer experience now, we're gonna stay where we are. So no, it's great to see. So thank you very much for your presentation. I've got one question, which I know it comes up with the audience quite a lot, not just the American audience, but our community around the world. And it's this idea of really getting buy-in from the product teams. A lot of CX people would like, to fix issues that they in programs such as your ideation exchange. And I mean, you've explored over 50% of the ideas. So how did you get the buy-in from that product team to actually go and fix these problems?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say that it is, it's a little bit of relentlessness, a little bit of just being, knowing might be a little extreme, but just talking about it constantly, being able to bring, that the actual describing the impact, right, to customers and what the change could really drive. We had over, I mentioned we had 2 opportunities, right, for the idea exchange. We had kicked it off when we realized that things weren't really moving. We already had 200 ideas in the idea exchange. And so it really took finding an internal advocate. And so it goes to sort of the grit and perseverance piece that Melissa was just referring to. Is just, we just really have a sense of pride of the stewardship of the voice of customer into our internal teams. And so we just keep talking about it. We just keep showing. Sometimes maybe we actually try and fix it ourselves and at least, demonstrate that there's a way to do this better and a more efficiently or with lower effort. And so we choose those opportunities to do what we can within our span of control, but really it comes down to finding the advocates and then understanding what drives them, what's really their success factors, what are they looking, and then trying to speak speak to that, maybe taking a different spin on the way you present it.
Perfect. Thanks. We're already getting plenty of questions in the chat. So Francisco, you jumped in first. If you'd like to bring yourself off mute and join us, you can ask your questions directly. If not, I'm more than happy to ask them on your behalf.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I have my first question is regarding the financial part of the things. I love the part that we really want to improve the life of our customer, but we all know that when we tie that back to financial outcomes, it's much more sustainable and much more, in general, approved. So my question is, was there any analysis of the financial ROI of any of the initiatives? And if you can give a brief explanation of how did you link those two sides together, please?
Yeah, so we do, especially when things sort of become high priority, right? That's when we can really dig down into the numbers and try and make a business case. Where again, just to go back to sort of our background is not necessarily in the business part of it, right? We're in enablement and implementation, and so honestly, like we try and not know how much things cost, because that actually knowing how much things cost can actually hurt us in our relationship building, because then it's more about the science for us. Though we do. When we have these things that bubble up, we do take a step back and we look at, the number of, or the cost of technical support. How many calls are we getting in to ask a specific question? How much time is required in terms of going back and retraining an individual? How often are we having to do that? And so it's more of a lot of times it's more of showing how much it's costing us now and how much it won't cost us if we convert a certain number of that, than it is in showing like a growth in revenue. That certainly does happen occasionally. It's more of a cost savings a lot of times.
Great. Thanks, Francisco. Kate, nice to see you again. Would you like to bring yourself off mute and ask your question?
Hi, thanks. Great to see the momentum that you guys have built. But just kind of curious, kind of as you look forward for this year, what do you see as your biggest challenge? I know it's not always easy to continue the momentum, right? So.
Yeah, actually, I think so. We looking forward to this year. I think we have a huge opportunity. So we are gearing up for a new product release that has been announced. And that always presents opportunities for finding input, getting what did we do right, what did we do wrong, sort of that initial feedback. What can we do better? So it's actually a pretty exciting year for us. We within our ArcX team specifically, we're actually really doubling down on onboarding for our customers. Onboarding for us and service and support being, the getting the instrument on site and installed and trained and then utilized. And so we're really doubling down on the resources that we're putting together to make that a better experience and sort of bring it up to date. So they're all, we seem to have a lot of opportunities. We have a great group that finds a lot of ideas, and yeah, that's new products always present opportunity, excitement, and everything. So,
and I can add a little bit of flair from the perspective of the global CX team. So in 2023, we have a lot of competition coming to the market. As Sherry mentioned earlier, Illumina has been the global leader in DNA sequencing technology. We're celebrating our 25th anniversary this year, but the competition is here. And from that perspective, I think the challenge that we're going to be dealing with this year is how are we approaching that? How are we, taking the next step to not being so confident about where we are in this technology. People are going to be wooing our customers and wanting to take them away from us. And we've never had to deal with that before. So from my perspective is like, how are we going to step up our game here and not just rest on our laurels that our technology is the best? What is going to keep our customers staying with Illumina instead of going to something that might be a little bit less expensive, or they might be getting wooed by people just because they're new to the market? And so just wanted to add that in as well.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Shelley, would you like to ask your question?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I had to get off mute. I was just wondering if you could just go back again. It was, I'm not sure who was talking about it in the beginning, but talking about Sherry, I think, talking about the setup of the idea exchange. I think I remember from the slide, it was a database, but did you have to direct people to that site often to look at the ideas, and how accessible was it to people?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yes, we did. So it was a database, and we've gone through a couple of different providers of that database, and always we always needed, though, the archivability, the upvoting, the crowdsourcing piece was very important, regardless of what the background piece was. But yes, we absolutely have to direct individuals. We have our ArcX team amongst all of our projects. They are champions. They are localized within our districts across the Americas, and so they have sort of a responsibility to go back to their districts, their colleagues and peers, and talk about what activities we have going on. And so we sort of have an ambassador program. Melissa actually has a global ambassador program now, and we've utilized that to share. So absolutely, and we've like I said, we've used a couple of background. But it's now actually currently within our CRM, which also helps to drive people into a program that they're already using, right? So
yes, thank you.
Sure.
Great question. Thank you very much, Shelley. Mike, you got your hand up?
Yeah. Hi. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for sharing. I loved your example of the cup holder. I could totally relate, because I've been out shopping for cars with my big Yeti, and it won't fit in the hole. So, but I think the big lesson maybe for CX folks, and I kind of float the line between design thinking and CX, and I think a lot of traditional CX programs are all survey based, and things like the cup holder just don't show up, and they're little annoyances, but you might lose a customer over that annoyance. So. And I caught, at least sort of my radar went up when you said you're a continuous innovation organization. So I'm wondering what methods are sort of happening across the company to be in that front row to catch the cup holder issues that don't show up in sort of the traditional customer listening approaches.
Melissa and Tim, you guys are welcome to join in. I think part of that is actually coaching to it, right? When we hire FAS and FSCs, I mentioned a culture of continuous innovation. That really is in our culture. That and driving empathy. We have Tim actually host a training around empathy and listening, active listening to the customer. Yeah. And that's part of our onboarding now. And so connecting the employee experience to the customer experience and being able to show, that we need to reinforce these ideas and honestly give our field team members autonomy to ask the questions and, the transparency piece and having them reassured that their ideas are listened to as well, right? We could build the database all day long. If no one's using it, then no one's going to start, no one's going to continue to put the ideas in there. But we've seen now that we have sort of that 360-degree return of the information, that we can really value it, and the individuals see that value. So
yeah, this is Tim. We make a concerted effort not only to complete the project that's being requested, but also promote it and advertise it internally, pointing out that this was a request from fill in the blank person, and it's now available. One of the many projects that I work on is promoting digital tools within our organization, and so we have a repository for these tools. We have workplace pages, or like Facebook for internal, and we promote things there. We send out emails and keep people updated that, hey, there's new tools, and this is something that's new that's been requested, and here's what's been released in the last few months. And it's a big effort, as much to promote the projects as it is to create them. So yeah, there's a big effort to do that, and without that, there's too many tools and resources for people to use, and it gets lost. So it is a big part of the promotion.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mike, for sharing. Lisa, would you like to bring yourself off mute?
And you mean related to the comment I just made in the chat?
Yeah, please share with the group.
Well, it was just a comment. I mean, I guess I was just following up on, I think it was Francisco's comment related to ROI, and I guess what I heard, I don't mean to be critical, but I think a lot of us work in organizations where the demands to develop a business case and to show ROI are much more stringent than what we've heard just now. And I'm wondering if this organization is kind of in that upswing of, everything CX does is great. And I just find that as business becomes more stringent, CX does tend to recede as a priority, just because the executive team is focused on other things. So it sounds like right now CX can go hand in hand. And the question is, I'm curious as to if there's any expectations for this team and seeing some challenges coming forward in terms of executive mindset and mind share.
Yeah, that's a great point and a great question. That's where I see significant challenges, is getting the C-suite level, engaged in, customer experiences. And it is so hard to tag return on investment, like Sherry was saying. A lot of times it's, we're reducing the customer effort, and we have these regional teams that really don't have any really strong revenue based KPIs attached to their goals. They're doing it for the betterment of the customer, and we really haven't had to have that yet in those teams. But as our global CX team is growing, I can definitely see that, where we will have to start bringing in that return on investment to show the value and the impact of what we're trying to do. There was one other thing I was going to say. Oh, we just had an example come in this week where, we want to try and, like I was saying, align our regions more, and bringing that customer experience to our product development pipeline, getting more engaged with our commercial teams. And I had someone come back to me, saying, because I was wanting to get involved in some commercial meetings and things. And so it's like, well, but we're really trying to focus on the business and revenue. And it's just getting people to understand, yes, but that is CX. That is what CX is doing, is really driving revenue by providing great customer experiences. So it's changing that mindset that's a little bit difficult at those higher levels. I don't know if that helped answer your question, but just wanted to add that in.
Yeah, I can add a little bit to that. One of the it's hard to get a hard ROI of like, oh, this is saving us this much money or creating this much money. One of the things, and I was just typing this in the chat, that we were making support videos this year, and there were about 4,000 hours worth of view time on those. And I could sit here and put a dollar value on the amount of time that is, but that's not really the big impact. The big impact is that's 4,000 hours our employees weren't answering simple questions. And that's 4,000 hours that a lab technician who's relatively young and Gen Z who just wants to look up something on YouTube to answer a question can do that and be comfortable and understand what minor problem they had, some troubleshooting or some maintenance related to the instrument, that they didn't have to pick up the phone and call someone like their grandfather did, right? They want to get their solution. They want it fast. They want it on demand, and it's a better experience. Now that's 4,000 hours that somebody wasn't talking to tech support and wasn't talking to their local application scientist or engineer. So that's 4,000 hours we had to spend on more complex questions, and we could keep an instrument that maybe a project would have been delayed. We can keep it up and running because we had time to talk to them. So there's an opportunity cost for explaining the simple things that is a little bit harder to capture. But I think that's really where the money is. That's really where the return on investment is. Because I'm not explaining to you how to turn off and turn on your scientific machine. I'm spending 20 minutes talking to someone else, preventing them from making an error that would cost them a week of progress. So that's the kind of thing that I think is really impactful. But it is hard to get a dollar value on that. So it's more showing, this is what our customers need. This is what our customers want. The fact we have this makes them more loyal, and it gives us opportunity to keep other instruments up and running.
Thanks, Tim. I've got a question for you, Tim, based around that and the videos. Obviously, your business is extremely complex. How on earth do you explain how to use a DNA machine in 3 minutes on a YouTube video?
So that's a great question. We have a number, like a few different ideas, channels, if you will, or I guess sub channels, because it's all on the Illumina YouTube channel, of different content. So if I want to explain to you how to use a software package or how to do a particular task, there's a lot of breaking it down to like, what specifically do you want to do? So I'm not going to make a video of how to use the software for our DNA sequencer. That's a long discussion, right? There's a lot of different features, and the system guide's like many pages. But if you want to know how to set up a maintenance wash, okay, we can break that down into a 3 to 5 minute video. So things like customer instrument troubleshooting is a channel or a compilation of videos we have. Those things can be relatively fast and take 3 to 5 minutes to talk about a specific problem. Things like maintenance, things like what we call support shorts are more screenshot heavy. Like, this is how you do this in a software. You want to do this specific task. This is how you do it. And they're much more like rapid. Click here. This is what it looks like. Most of these videos really kind of started probably about, I don't know, almost 10 years ago now, when I was annoyed at explaining the same thing over and over and over and over again to my customers. So I said, why don't I just record myself doing it? And then I can just share this video with people and say, here, watch this. And those evolved into what we call expert video tips. And those can be a little bit longer. So to answer your question, they're not all 3 to 5 minute videos. A lot of them, not a lot, but many of them go to 8, 9, 10 minute videos. And if the content is longer, we'll break it up into 2 parts. Probably we don't tend to go more than about 12 minutes. That's a little too long. And that will allow us to kind of dive deeper into a more complex idea. But that is good because it's now on demand and rewatchable, right? So instead of explaining something that takes 15 minutes for me to explain to you, and then getting it slightly different every time I explain it, now I've recorded it, I have graphics, I have beautiful production, and I can send you this link, and everyone around the world gets the same information for this complex explanation. And we can go around and say, are we saying this right? Are we giving any misinformation? So we can make sure that the message is consistent too. So those expert video tips are a little bit longer and get into some more complicated ideas. So it really depends on what we're trying to deliver. what kind of content we're trying to deliver and who the target audience is. But we have a lot of different options as to how we can make those videos and what format we want to put them in. And one of the things that Sherry has been really helpful with is we have, I don't have it sitting around me, we have QR codes now that lead to playlists. So you can put a little QR code sticker on the side of your instrument and say you have a Nova Seek 6000, you could put in the lab, you can hold up your phone, scan the QR code, and it takes you to a playlist of all those videos that I just talked about, all the different types of videos that are specific to that instrument. So if you're looking to, how do I turn this thing off and on again? You can hold up your phone, you can scan, and it says how to power cycle the Nova Seek 6000. You click on that, and you watch it right there in the lab. And Sherry has been really helpful in getting those stickers out to our field to put on the instruments. And so we have all these videos, and we try to compile them in YouTube playlists that are specific to the instrument or specific to need, so that people can get to the video they need quickly.
Did the QR code come from the idea exchange by any chance?
No, that I think was a COVID observation that when we started coming together after COVID, every restaurant we went to for dinner, every lobby bar that we went to talk and network got rid of their menus, right? They all were like, here, scan this QR code and you'll see our menu online. And we started to think, hey, wouldn't this be a good idea to have as a way to quickly get to support resources for our instruments? And as time went by and as COVID drug on, you saw QR codes be more and more ubiquitous. And we just, everyone's comfortable using them. So we said, okay, let's link our videos to them. I
think your use case is much better than menus.
Than a menu.
I
agree.
The app didn't work, or you had to download something. Anyway, luckily we're past that now. So we've got about 5 minutes left. We've got time for one more question from the audience. If not, then I've got one last question to ask. So if there's any questions from the audience, please just bring yourself off mute and jump in. All right, it's time to me then. So yeah, I guess my final parting question is, if you just had one piece of advice to give other organizations about how to nail customer success, what would it be?
I would say one piece of advice, that's kind of hard, but maybe just wrapping it up in the culture piece, because the culture piece that we talked about, really, right? That's the innovation. Our culture is really around innovation. It's really around collaboration. And within service and sports specifically, it's around empathy and listening. And I think all of those things come together to enable our frontline team to have a voice back into the product management team and our ultimate feedback for the customers. Maybe being annoying and relentless is not necessarily fully in our relentlessness, I think is in one of our cultures, our values, but just not giving up and continuing to push until you find that internal advocate who can really help you continue forward. And a lot of times, honestly, at Illumina, we have field team members who have moved on or moved in, within Illumina. And a lot of times we use those connections, right, to continue and make connections further into the organization because they understand and realize what we bring to the table from our customers. So that would be sort of the culture piece, I think is really important.
Great. Melissa, have you got anything to add?
I think, like Sherry said, it's all about the connections that you make, and just that relentlessness to not give up when people say, no, we're not going to focus on that. You just have to keep going and keep moving forward, and trying to break down those barriers to make the connections, to really get people to listen to what you're saying and what the customers. One of the other things we want to start doing is bringing more of our internal teams to the customers themselves by shadowing tech support, shadowing our field teams, so that they can really see frontline that this stuff isn't just, you know, one and done and it just works perfectly on the first try. So yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people on this call resonate with resilience and sticking at it and keep going. Tim, do you have anything to add before we wrap up?
Sure. I just want to call out that Melissa is our connection that Sherry was referring to. Melissa is like me and Sherry were field application scientists for a long time, and whenever I have the question, who do I go to with this, or how do I even make that happen? Melissa's probably the first one I email going, hey, do you know anything about this? And she usually does. So that I can't speak more, I can't agree more with Sherry's point there, like having a champion in your corner is huge. And the last thing I would say, which I don't know how I don't know how nice it is to say this, but the way I've kind of lived doing this and getting things done is to ask for forgiveness, not for permission. It's really how I was like, wow, that'd be a good idea. I think that would help our customers. And it's a lot harder when someone has done something and shown its value to go, no, we're not going to do that, than it is to kind of see the vision. And so honestly, the first video we made, support video we made, I made in my office and showed it to my managers, to a manager and a colleague, and said, hey, what do you think about this? And I was thinking of just saving time for myself. And they were like, hey, wait, we should make this a bigger thing. So you never really know where it will go, but you know, if you see something that could be of value to your customers, you know, it's a lot easier to promote it if you do it and show how valuable it is. So I've kind of always operated that way. So that may vary, your mileage may vary in your organization, but asking for forgiveness seems to be better than asking for permission.
Love it. Love it. Well, we've hit our time. So thank you all so much. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. On behalf of everybody on this call, just like to thank the three of you from Illumina for joining us today and telling your story. It's been an absolutely fantastic hour session. So thank you very much and have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah,
everyone.
thank you. Bye.